with Fallon and all those guys. The decline of communism was in full swing. Mikhail Gorbachev was leading the efforts to make the Soviet Union a freer society back then. Hurricane Hugo, near and dear to my heart, ripped through the southeast United States, caused 34 deaths and over $10 billion in damage. San Francisco, up the road, was hit by a 6.9 Loma Prieta earthquake during the World Series. I was safe in Maine back then. Didn't feel a thing, but I was freezing to death because it's always cold there. TV evangelist Jim Bakker, y'all remember him? Big hair. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison for fraud, and Pete Rose was banned from baseball. And speaking of baseball, does anybody remember who won the World Series back then? Because it happened during that earthquake. It was the Bay Series. It was Oakland. And who won the Super Bowl? It's a tribute to Bobby's joining. It was the 49ers. Who is the NBA champ? No, it was Detroit. Sorry. And the number 14 song back then was Gloria Estefan's I Don't Want to Lose You. And I'm sure the Navy is singing that song today for you, Bobby. But I don't think it's going to have any effect today. I know Bobby has many things on his plate that he wishes to do and accomplish when he makes his transition from active duty to retirement. I really don't like that word, retirement. It sounds so ending. Really, retirement is about a new beginning, and it's a new beginning with certain folks. The one thing I know for sure, that when Bobby is done here, whatever he chooses to do, he'll be successful. You know, he came here, as I said, started the 4th grade in Portland, and then and now we're going to talk a little bit about him, and then his life went on, and then 7 years later, he was able to earn a BA in economics from the University of Washington. He did that in just 2 years. So is that the University of Washington? Is that the Huskies? Is that the UW? UW? UW. That's awesome. We'll talk about more of that later. But first I want to talk about some people who went on that journey with him. Bobby's family. As our careers move forward, there are always people that go with us. Always. They may not always be next to us, they may not be there physically, but boy, they are sure in our hearts. Those folks are parents, they're our siblings, our spouses, children, even grandma and grandpa sometimes go with us. It's so good to see so many of you here today. Those who traveled on that journey with Bobby during his 26 years. I'd like to offer a very special welcome to Bobby's wife, Marie. Again, they welcomed you. To the daughters, Natalis, Callie, and Momo. Momo, wave at me. Momo? Momo is doing what Bobby never got to do. She's playing with a BlackBerry. And she's completely entranced in it. That is awesome. Okay, now this is where I'll be challenged linguistically. So Bobby, in the gracious of his heart, sent me a phonetic translation of all the names for you guys. So if I get this wrong, make a dirty look at me. But his father, Pong. His sisters, Du Wang Chan. Is that correct? Did I get that close? Did I mess that one up? And her husband, Puan. Mukta, Weha, and her husband, Sangtong. There's also Anne and her husband, William. Bobby's also joined by his brothers, Boon Huyang, and his wife Diana, and of course Kelvin. And we met many of you last night. All of you been on a journey with Bobby, and they're here now, and they're going to welcome you back. Also, Holly's family, John, her husband, is here, and sister-in-law Nina and Jane, and also Dana, and a brother-in-law David. They're here to join us today too. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. We got a lot to talk about later. Bobby's supporters also include his niece Allie and his nephew Dallas, all the way from Lafayette, Louisiana. And I believe last night they brought you a recorded message from your sister who couldn't come. And it was a tearjerker. Nice job. You had us all out there doing this. We needed to hear the Macarena to get us over that. I'd also like to welcome the rest of you today to this very special day in Bobby's personal and professional life. It's always important that we pay tribute to someone who's put this much time in, and also that we acknowledge the people who traveled on that journey. On behalf of FRC Southwest, from the 4,000 folks who call FRC Southwest home, thank you for coming. But today, retirement is always just not Bobby's day. It's also your day. It's your day. Why is that? And you might have heard this before, but this is important stuff. It's because you don't have to worry about when the next deployment is. Maybe you'll have to worry about when the next 3,000-mile hike is, but it won't be the Navy's fault, and you have a lot more to say about it. Okay? You won't have to worry about months without Dad being around. You won't have to worry about months without hugs and kisses and chats. What I like about retirement is you get to see your family when you want, not when the Navy says you can. Retirement Day represents a huge mark of accomplishment. It's an achievement that your family helped to color. Today, Bobby, is as much their day as it is yours. And I think you've acknowledged that last night, and you've done a wonderful job of acknowledging that today. You couldn't have done 26 years without them at your side. There is no way to do this gig alone. It is Family Day because we thank you for being with you every single day in spirit and for taking care of you even when you weren't there. It's also their day because they took care of stuff while you were gone. They fixed the car, they took the kids to the doctor, they learned to do, have you ever heard that song, Mr. Mom? You ever heard that? It's a country song. If you haven't, dial it up and listen to that sometime. It's about a person it's about a guy who loses his job, and he talks about all this stuff and how cool it would be to be Mr. Mom. And when you listen to that song, it really pays tribute to what really the Navy spouse is all about. Because when you're all done, you go, I know you do it, but what I can't figure out is how you do it. So in short, we honor them today because they were there with you. And now you start the payback because you have to always be there for them. So let's shift gears a little bit to Bobby now. 26 years, what was that like? Well, you know, he came in the Navy in 1989. He was a delayed entry guy. And he went off to basic training and became an airman recruit. And then you heard him mention he became a plane captain. You know, plane captains do everything. Well, what does a plane captain do? They do everything. I think plane captains are more qualified than pilots. And I say that because you guys are out there, but I also say it because for the first time in my life, I'm on a full Mustang stage. Check it out. Everyone's a Mustang. It's pretty cool. So there's a lot of brain power there. So, you know, then he became an aviation machinist mate, an ADAA, and in November 1989, he became an ADAN, and then in August 1990, a third class. He was moving fast. He continued to work his way up, and then in 1997, he went to Officer Candidate School in Pensacola, and he got her done, and he became a JG in 99, a lieutenant in 2001. Think about how fast this is going. And then in 2006, he made lieutenant commander, and finally made commander in September of 2012. He's always been a go-getter. He has gone quickly, and he has never wavered from perfection. And as our OIC here at Point McGill, he demanded that every single day, and he got it. Believe me when I say there's nothing more reassuring to the XO and the CO of a command to know that when folks are riding herd on things,